Welcome back, everyone. Ready for another deep dive? Today we're going to tackle something pretty intense, Elon Musk's work ethic.
Yeah, the guy's famous for his intense approach to work and leadership, right?
Exactly. I mean, the sheer amount he expects from himself and everyone around him, we're talking Tesla, SpaceX.
Ambitious ventures, for sure.
But that demanding work style, it sparked a ton of discussion. So today we're going right to the heart of it.
Really gonna unpack it.
Okay, so first things first. Musk himself is like the poster child for working round the clock. Hundreds of hours a week, sleeping in factories. This guy's constantly pushing.
He practically lives by that whole work like hell philosophy, doesn't he?
And he said it himself, that if you work 100-hour weeks while others do 40, even doing the same thing, you'll achieve in 4 months what takes them a year.
Wow, that's a bold statement.
Right, but is that really sustainable? Or even the best way to get results?
Good question. It's a tricky one. On the one hand, that dedication, it can lead to some crazy speed and results.
Especially in tech.
Yeah, industries that move at lightning speed. Like, think about Tesla's early days. They had some massive hurdles to overcome. That crazy pace, driven by Musk, might have been what saved them.
It's true, they were up against a lot.
But on the other hand, that constant pressure cooker, not always a good thing, could stifle creativity, long-term planning, even well-being.
Like sprinting a marathon.
Exactly. Might get a head start, but you gotta burn out before the finish line.
Good point.
Yeah.
And it's not just about the hours.
It's the whole culture that creates.
Yeah, like how Musk dealt with underperformers at Tesla early on.
You have that boxer analogy, right? Smaller fighters needing way more skill to beat the bigger guys. Shows you what he values.
Talent and drive above all else.
Exactly.
But that analogy raises some questions. Can you always measure an employee's worth by, like, standard performance reviews?
Good point.
What about those who are super talented but maybe don't fit that high performer mold?
Do they get left behind?
Yeah. Does it create this environment where everyone's terrified of messing up? Or does it foster a sort of survival of the fittest, where only the strongest thrive?
Interesting thought. And then you've got the whole Twitter takeover. Musk went in with a pretty dramatic approach.
He did, demanding hardcore work, long hours, no more work from home, even got rid of free lunches.
A real shakeup.
Totally. And the reactions, well, they were mixed. Some people walked, others embraced it.
Musk said the best people stayed.
So, makes you wonder, what kind of person is drawn to that kind of intensity?
Right. Is it people who just naturally thrive under pressure? Or are others being pushed out?
And is that even sustainable in the long run? I mean, think about how much emphasis he puts on engineering talent.
Like that autopilot team at Tesla.
Yeah, smaller group that's outperforming huge teams at other companies. That's core to his belief in smaller, highly skilled teams being the most effective.
Which brings us back to Twitter. He cut the workforce drastically. Betting on a smaller, more driven team might have its upsides.
But there have been some very public challenges. Revenue loss, the whole paid verification rollout.
Definitely. Makes you wonder, are these just growing pains? Or is it a sign of something more serious?
Is there a point where smaller is better just stops working?
It's hard to say for sure. And we can't forget the human element in all this. Dolly Singh, a former SpaceX executive, said working with Musk is intense, demanding, but incredibly rewarding.
She said that discomfort leads to growth you can't get anywhere else.
Interesting perspective. Really highlights those trade-offs of working in that kind of environment. Can you handle that intensity long-term, even if you thrive on it?
And for those who don't, is it worth the sacrifice?
A lot to think about.
Okay, so we've got this picture of Musk's work ethic. Not just his own drive, but like setting the tone for the whole company.
Almost like trying to create this high-performance athlete kind of mentality, but for tech and innovation. And that brings up some, ethical stuff to consider. Like, if you're always pushing for max output, doesn't that almost guarantee burnout?
It's a tough question.
And what about those who can't keep up with that pace? Are they just like casualties in this pursuit of these huge goals?
It's almost like this unspoken thing. You want to be part of something groundbreaking. You got to be willing to make those sacrifices.
And for some people, that's appealing. Think about the engineers Musk attracts. Often super bright, driven people. They want to push the limits. But is that sustainable for like the average person?
Or even desirable, really.
Exactly. And gotta ask, is it even necessary for success? plenty of companies achieve amazing things without demanding that level of dedication.
Yeah, there are other ways.
It's the big debate, right? Musk's results, they're undeniable. He's done stuff that people thought was impossible.
For sure.
But could you get those same results with a more balanced approach? Is there a different path to innovation that doesn't require such huge personal sacrifices? I don't know.
And then there's the whole work-life balance thing. Can you really have a fulfilling personal life when you're working 100-hour weeks?
I mean, something's got to give, right?
Does your personal life just become like a secondary priority?
It's a tough one, a challenge. And it's something Musk himself has talked about, actually, the personal sacrifices he's made.
But he seems to see it as like the price you pay for reaching those goals.
Yeah.
But should everyone be expected to pay that price?
Yeah.
What message does that send to like future generations of workers?
That's a good point.
Is this the example we want to set for, young entrepreneurs, aspiring engineers?
Yeah, Musk's a role model for a lot of people. So it's worth asking, are we kind of romanticizing overwork? Are we creating a culture where people feel like they have to sacrifice their well-being just to keep up?
Almost like there's this underlying fear now. If you're not working crazy hours, you're not committed, you're going to miss out on the next big thing.
And that can get toxic fast. People constantly feeling pressure to prove themselves, even if it means like neglecting their health, their personal lives, that's a dangerous path.
Definitely.
We got to remember, success shouldn't come at the cost of your well-being.
Absolutely. And it goes beyond just the individual employees. This kind of intense work environment, it impacts families, communities, even society as a whole, right?
Totally. When work becomes all-consuming, it can lead to isolation, stress, and eventually burnout.
Yeah.
And nobody wins then. Not the person, not their family and friends, and honestly, not the company either.
And this is where it gets really interesting, I think, because it makes you step back and look at the bigger picture.
Yeah.
What are the long-term consequences of this kind of work culture? Are we sacrificing creativity, innovation, just for speed and efficiency?
Are we setting up a system that burns people out instead of inspiring them? Tough questions.
Yeah. So while Musk's achievements are huge, no doubt, and his drive is inspiring in a lot of ways,
For sure.
it's important to remember there's more than one way to be successful, and maybe a more balanced approach, more sustainable.
Maybe that's not just possible, but actually better for everyone in the end.
Yeah, maybe. All right, so we've talked a lot about the intensity, but how else can you achieve those big goals without, burning out entire teams?
I think we gotta question some of those basic ideas we have about work, Like, do more hours automatically mean better results?
Yeah.
Does pushing people to their limit actually bring out their best? Or is there a point where it just backfires?
We've gotten kind of obsessed with this whole hustle culture thing. Like, being busy is a badge of honor, proof you're dedicated.
Right.
But what if we focused on working smarter, not just harder?
There's actually a lot of research that suggests that's a way better approach, more sustainable, more effective. Overworking, it can actually kill creativity, lead to more mistakes. Yeah, you end up with less output overall.
Counterintuitive, right? But sometimes stepping back, taking breaks, recharging.
Makes you more productive in the end.
Exactly. Like, think about companies like Google, famous for their employee-friendly policies, their work-life balance.
Yeah, they're still super innovative and productive, but they've taken a very different path. They get that a happy, well-rested employee is more engaged, more creative.
So it's about creating that environment
Yeah.
where people feel challenged, motivated, but also supported, respected.
Where they can take risks, make mistakes, and learn without being afraid.
Exactly.
Instead of demanding these huge sacrifices, what if we focused on building a culture that supports well-being, that encourages creativity, a place where people can bring their best to work?
Build teams that are resilient, adaptable, energized.
Not just pushing them till they break.
Yeah, I think that's the big takeaway here. Musk's done incredible things, no question. And his drive, it's definitely inspiring. But gotta remember, there's not just one way to be successful.
Maybe a more balanced approach.
More sustainable. Maybe that's not just possible, it's actually the best way forward for everyone.
Could be.
So, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Elon Musk's work ethic. It's a complex topic for sure. We hope this has given you some things to think about, your own approach to work, to leadership. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep pushing for a better future for ourselves and for the world.